Quinn Martin Productions was a powerhouse to be reckoned with in Hollywood. One of the famous shows that they produced was a crime drama called The Streets of San Francisco. This was done in association with Warner Brothers Television. The show ran for 5 seasons between 1972 and 77, with a total of 119 60-minute episodes. It starred Carl Malden and Michael Douglas in the lead roles. The genesis of the series was a pilot movie that was based on a detective novel called Poor Poor Ophelia, which was written by Carolyn Weston. Ed Hume wrote the teleplay for the pilot, and he was credited with developing the series off of Weston's novel. In this pilot, you'll see guest stars Robert Wagner, Tom Bosley, and Kim Darby. Now, the show was up against some terribly stiff competition, like the Mary Tyler Moore Show and the Bob Newhart Show. It aired on September 16, 1972 at 9 p.m. Eastern. Going against this tough competition, you would think it would just get swallowed up, but it didn't. It gained a little bit of attention in this Saturday night slot during its first season, and then it was moved to Thursday, where it stayed for the remainder of its run. The show revolves around the day-to-day workings of 2 police officers who investigate homicides in San Francisco. Lieutenant Michael Stone, played by Carl Malden, who had more than 20 years of police experience and was now assigned to the homicide detail in San Francisco's police department. He was partnered with a young inspector and a real energetic partner named Inspector Steve Keller, played by Michael Douglas. He was young, he was a college graduate, but he had little experience on the police force. The rigors and procedures of detective work end up getting shown to Keller by his second father, Lieutenant Stone. I don't think there's any doubt from all the people that worked around this pair that they had a really strong professional and personal relationship with their time on the series. In 1996, at the People's Choice Awards, Malden really referred to Douglas as the son he never had. And he went on to state that he went to the producer, Quinn Martin, to try to get Douglas cast for the series. There were many actors that guest starred on the show, and some were relatively unknown at the time, but became very successful later on in their own feature films and television series. Susan Day was on there, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Martin Sheen, Dabney Coleman, Denver Pyle, Robert Wagner. Goodness gracious, the list just runs forever. After the second episode of the 5th and final season, Michael Douglas's character left the show after he was so successful at producing the film One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which he won an Academy Award for as Best Film in 1975. His character is written off of the show, and his absence is explained by having him take a teaching position at a local college. Michael Douglas told everybody that when he left the series, that he thought that they were going to kill him off. And that stands to reason that would probably be a great thing to have happen in the show. And that he had been looking forward to seeing a 5-page death scene that was written for this episode. But instead, they have him leave to teach, which was not very dramatic. The series was sponsored by Ford Motor Company, and half of the vehicles shown in the show were new Ford cars. In the early episodes, Keller and Stone drive a brown 1971 Ford Galaxy 4-door sedan, and the entire SFPD cruiser fleet consisted of Ford Galaxies. The inspectors, when they were in their unmarked Ford 4-door sedan, would respond to an emergency after placing a single lamp revolving magnetic red light on the roof. This was contrary to the authentic way that the San Francisco PD actually did this. They used a forward, steady burning red handheld spotlight, which actually hung by a hook to the inside top front part of the windshield. Now, they did their best to make things look as authentic as they really were in San Francisco, and both Carl Malden and Michael Douglas spent time with the detectives there in order to lend an air of authenticity to the show. The real San Francisco detectives took a real strong liking to both Carl Malden and Michael Douglas, and some really strong friendships developed because of this training they did. Unlike a lot of the television productions that were done during that day, the show made a real effort to blend itself seamlessly into the fabric of this city. The series was filmed almost entirely on location in San Francisco. They took a warehouse there and converted it into a soundstage, and I think this building is still there. It's at the dead end of Kearny Street below Telegraph Hill. And one thing you might notice is kind of strange when you watch these cop shows. The San Francisco Police Department uses the term inspector the way that a lot of police departments use the term detective. In other police departments, an inspector is a much higher rank. In New York, the term inspector is a rank above captain. But in the UK, an inspector is equivalent to a lieutenant. When the series debuted, it was slotted, like I said earlier, kind of as a counter to the programming opposite in the Saturday night situation comedy lineup. But it failed to build a real audience. The 2-hour pilot movie ranked 58th out of 65 programs telecast that week. And then the first regular episode of the series fared even lower. It was 62nd of 65 programs. In January of '73, ABC shook up its lineup by shuffling a number of its programs around. The Streets of San Francisco was then moved to Thursday night, and immediately upon doing this, its viewership increased, grabbing a 31% share of the audience. Over the next 3 years, the series flourished on Thursday nights. Ranked number 22nd in its second season, and the third season, it was ranked number 26. Then in the 1976-77 season, ABC made a strategic mistake, moving the series up 1 hour, placing it directly in competition with Barnaby Jones, which was another Quinn Martin production. These two crime dramas virtually split their audience, with Barnaby Jones ranked 49th and The Streets of San Francisco falling to 52nd of 104 shows measured that season. This show would have probably gone on another 2 or 3 seasons had some big shot executive at the network not made this stupid decision. This caused such a decline in viewership, plus the steady rising of production costs, and the network knew that Carl Malden's contract was up and they would have to pony up a bunch of money to keep him around. This just prompted ABC to cancel the series. Now, it's been reported numerous times that Elvis Presley loved watching TV, and he especially loved cop shows like this. But he wouldn't watch this show, and it was probably one of the reasons that he may have shot a TV out, that reason being that he didn't like Carl Malden's character because he was named Mike Stone, which is the name of the man that his wife Priscilla Presley had an affair with. He just couldn't get past this and realized that this was just a TV drama. Carl Malden and Michael Douglas did an excellent job in this show. This is one of the things that made this show so successful, was the fact that their characters seemed so believable as inspectors for the San Francisco PD. The show was great to watch when it was running in prime time, and it's also fun to revisit in syndication today. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.